So yeah, these are the Echo 620 pistons and cylinders. They have a slightly domed piston, which is nice. You can see it here. It kind of rises up and down. Very clean castings. Nice ports, finished well. Radius nice. The numbers are pretty good. I'm going to give it some more compression. I'm going to go a little bit more on the exhaust timing. Intake very little, just a bit. I want to keep the torque in these so guys can run their long bars on them. One thing they do have is kind of interesting. It's sort of like the old Yamaha kart engines and some old motors. They actually have thrust washers up top for the top wrist pin and bearing, top end bearing. And the pins are very tight in the piston. You got to use a special puller from Echo to get them out, which is better than beating them out with a punch and a hammer, because you can end up bending their rod. I've seen people do that. So yeah, I'm just gonna do these up to my specs out of my book here, where I keep them all. Can't show you too close. Yeah, and you know they're a nice transfer ports on them too. Nice and big, long. Just gonna show you a way not to port a cylinder. Actually, this guy sent me this a while back, and the thing had no power. It would hardly run, spitting gas out of the carburetor. Well, if you can see the size of that intake, it's gone so wide. This isn't the exact piston that was in it, but you can understand he actually had a 272 piston in here with an open skirt. So the skirt was narrower than the port. So there's no way your piston's going to seal on a piston port engine. The piston's got to seal on that intake port, or it's like having a broken reed in a reed engine, or a broken rotary valve disc if you had a rotary valve saw, which they have made. McCullough made one. I believe Sox Dogmar made one. Then go-kart engines, a lot of the real fast ones were rotary valve type motors years ago. So yeah, I'll do a little video of I'll show you the finished process of this Echo when I'm done after porting it. I'm going to also just clean up these wrist pin areas in the piston where the wrist pin goes through, just so it's a little looser, not totally loose, but so it'll slide through nicely. I don't want to have to pound it back through, which I believe I do have a tools though from Echo that you can basically use it to pull the wrist pin back through. But then you have to make sure you line up those thrust washers. So when you're putting it through the top of the rod, like so, the bearing will be in here. The two thrust washers are on the side, and you got to line it up, to get the wrist pin through like that. I made up a little jig. I actually took an old wrist pin and I cut it down, actually, I should say, shorter. So when it goes through the piston, well, not through the piston, through the rod, and the bearings in there, the thrust washers are in there, and then I can put the piston down over that. Then I can push the pin through, push that little old wrist pin that I cut up through, and then it lines up perfect. So that's a good little tip if you're working on Echoes or doing any mods on them, is to build that little jig. It just makes it easier for assembly and disassembly next time. Not disassembly, but assembly part of it. That's actually a 572 crank out of a 572 that I've been playing around with. Gonna build a racing saw out of one of them for logger sports. So probably not this year. I don't think there's gonna be any shows going on, but that'll give me plenty of time to do it for the next time, or just go out and play around with it, have some fun. So yeah, I better get at her. These two Echo 620s are for a couple of fellas in the US. Haven't really talked to them much, just going by their emails of what they kind of were going to be running on them and what kind of area they live in, so I can adjust the carburetor properly. If they're up in Denver, Colorado, I might want to change the high-speed tuning on it a little bit for the high elevation, or if they're down here in Seattle or something, then we'll just set it the way we are here, because we're pretty much at sea level. And that's why auto-tune and M-Tronic saws work awesome, because it self-adjusts, you know, that little microprocessor, the auto-tune system. I don't have one here to show you actually, but that's kind of a bummer. I do have a 572 here though, just no carburetor to show you. So the little microprocessor in there, it moves around millions of times searching for altitude, humidity, type of fuel you're running, clogged air filter, an air leak. If it's sucking air, it'll start running richer so you don't blow it up, and then your ring will probably stick like they do, and you'll have to get it in for a service. You know, that's another thing too with people running gas and oils and stuff, you know, like, you know, too much oil is some people think it's good. Well, it isn't, man. You know, you can stick a ring, and, you know, it actually sometimes runs a little hotter if you got too much oil. So, you know, you want to run what the manufacturer's suggesting, and, you know, run higher octane fuel is always good too. There's so much crap in the fuel these days. You know, 10% of ethanol. You know, even the 89 now at the pump here in Nanaimo says it has, you know, 5% ethanol in it, and the 87 says it's got 10. You know, that stuff just absorbs water. It really ruins your diaphragms and your carb and stuff if it's sitting around with that gas in it. So try to get something with no ethanol, or very little. And just run a good oil, man. There's lots of good oils out these days. Not like years ago. We only had like Castrol Super 2-stroke was our go-to oil for so many years. Still is. Great stuff. Never had any seizures. Runs clean. Today's Red Armor or Still Oil or Husky Oil or Echo. It's all good stuff as long as you do it right and have good gas and your motor's tuned right. You know, I got lots of examples of different ugly looking carbon buildup and stuff from different oils and whatnot. And some of these places you go to where they supply gas and oil, that's crappy, because it's just bad mix. A lot of times they cheap out these big companies and buy the cheapest gas they can, cheapest oil, and they just carbon up. They don't seize up, but they just get carboned up, and that produces heat and scoring on the motors. Yeah, you know, like you got to think about these little things, you know. You know, that saw is, you know, 50 hours of running, you know, at 12,000 RPM, let's say, you know, that piston's gone up and down like, you know, like 36,000 times, you know. You think about the lifetime of that piston going up and down, or a guy running a saw, you know, fallers work 6 hours a day. You know, maybe not the complete 6, you know, they're stopping and going to the next tree, and then, you know, grabbing more gas or whatever, you know. So, but they work over 200 days a year. So, you know what, do the math on that, man. That thing's, you know, the first, like you say, 50 hours, it's done that many revolutions. So how many revolutions is it done in those over 200 days in the year? So, you know, these little bearings and seals and stuff, man, you know, they're obviously going to get some wear, you know. And it's not just the gas and oil that's doing any damage to it either. You know, you get so much ingestion with sawdust, you know, like the fir dust. You know, the fir is the worst here. The bark on the trees are, you know, like 6-inch thick in some cases. The guy's got to shave all that bark off so he can get at the cambium or the tree itself to make his cuts, right? And the guy's got to clean his filter like 2 or 3 times sometimes when you cut one tree. But then some guys get lazy and don't, and that fines. You know, guys really got to just almost pack a spare filter. But those fines get right in there, and I can tell by the intake wear on the piston if the guy's really being bad with his air filter, or you get a lot of moisture too. You know, the rain here, you know, gallons and gallons coming down and are all over that saw all day, and it's sucking water in, and that's abrasive too to the intake wear of the engine, you know. So Some guys have got pre-filters on some of the filters now. There's a few outfits out there offering pre-filters, which I think is a good idea, but you got to keep up on that too. So, maintenance is a big thing. People, even like yesterday, I texted a buddy that's in camp. He's got a 462 still he bought off me. He just loves it, and now his boss just bought one off me yesterday. But he didn't realize they run that little tiny spark plug, the little CMR 5H compared to the NGK7 or the NGK8. So I said to him, do you got a spare spark plug? You've had that thing now for like 4 or 5 months. Throw a spark plug in it at least. And that's a big thing with people. They don't change spark plugs or fuel filters. And you know what? They're cheap. Under $10, throw a new plug in every month. Throw a new fuel filter in every month. They're $10. So there's $20. Big deal, man. It'll just make everything work better. And, like your old dirt bike years ago, the thing was running crappy. You're blah, 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 won't get up on the pipe and stuff. Well, that's because the spark plug's foul, right? So throw a new spark plug in it. It was like rebuilding the motor for most people. Like, wah, off it goes, right? Same with kart engines. I used to, when I used to race at the track here locally, I was the man, guys at the starting grid. I've always stand around with a spark plug wrench and a spark plug in my pocket. That was a go-to for any pit guy at a go-kart race. And in motocross too. So, I got to see a guy trying to start a cart. We use electric cart starters in the side of them, run them over until they get going. Oh, it won't start. And the rest of the field's taken off. So I'm like, I run over, put my quick wrench on there, take that spark plug out, put a new in, bam, away it goes. Throw that spark plug in the garbage. Or go back and clean it with some brake cleaner. You might be good, but we used to run those real fine tip spark plugs, like EGVs or something, NGKs, and so they're expensive too. So you really, tune the carb right and whatnot, you won't have that problem. But like I say, do the maintenance and everything will work better for you. Especially the new M-Tronic and Auto Tune. The M-Tronic too, like you look at these spark plugs, you got the top on them. A lot of guys change their spark plugs and they run the ones that are removable tops. We'll still recommend, so does Husky, to have the solid ones, because this thing comes loose and now it starts interfering to spark. So that's changing your settings in your control module, what still calls their coil, or the auto tune system that Husky calls their little microprocessor thing. So it's interrupting the spark, and then those control modules aren't giving it the right fuel then. So like I said, $10, man. Throw one in every month. I'm not just doing that for sales either. It's just a smart thing to do. So, yeah, I could go on all day about that, but I'm not going to. My 500s are working good. 500i came back from my one test logger that's had it for, I would say 4 months now. Not one thing has been wrong with it. He says it uses a little bit more gas, but you don't care. It's smooth. It just runs good. It starts every time. Yeah, not a problem. I downloaded it. I have, how many hours are on it? Oh man, I think like 400 or something. I don't know. I'll tell you when I go back to the shop. But he's going to pick it back up again. I'm going to have a little interview with him. I want to talk to him about that 500 because he's ran 461s, 046s, 660s, old 666s, all the stills. So when the guys run all those kind of stuff every day, you feel it in your hands, you feel it in your body, like he at the end of the day now, as hardly feels in his hands that he ran a saw today, where in his previous models that he's ran, I'm not just saying that stills vibrate more, but yeah, they do actually. I can't lie. They vibrate more in Huskies, and that's a lot of the reasons older fellas and some people couldn't run the older stills. They got sensitive hands. But the new stills with the spring mounts, balancing of the crank possibly has helped. Very smooth. But the Husky 572 beats them all. Hands down, everyone I talk to, the 572 Husky is definitely the smoothest saw going on the planet. 4-circle crank, very well balanced, great mounts. You can change from, there is soft and hard mounts. Haven't really had any issues with them. Guy can change them around if they wanted, but most guys don't even know that. Just the heated versions or half wraps come with the softer ones because they know guys aren't going to run long bars on them as much as you do when you run a full wrap saw that's with the bigger dogs, right? So then the hard mounts might work a little better, but hey, if things working good, why change it? So yeah. So, you know, things are just getting lighter and faster, and this, you know, we just got to keep up on this new technology and, you know, keep her going with these emission specs that everyone has to have these days, which is all good. You know, you even notice on the road these days, you get behind an old Chevy truck or something that's, you know, like old school 80s or something, and you're just like, with the exhaust, eh? You know, it's coming in your window, right? I had one that like that the other day, and I was like, oh my God, you know, like, now you pull up beside cars and stuff, and they're shut off. Then all of a sudden they start up again when the guy hits the gas. So those are pretty sweet. My coworker Paul actually just got what do you call those cars? The electric one. Tesla. Yeah, Tesla. Oh my God, the thing's powerful, man. And he kind of was freaked out here. He went for a little drive the other day, and he put it in that mode where it drives itself, and he's like, sitting back thinking, what the heck if something goes wrong, right? So he quickly shut it back off again. He was all nervous, but that's pretty funny, you know. That's cool that you can trust something like that, though, eh? To actually drive you around. That's weird. It's like the Jetsons. So yeah, I better get at her. I gotta work on a whole bunch of Wajax fire pumps today too for a company. They're supposed to have their fire pumps all ready for the bush. With their tanker trucks, and they're two-stroke Rotax motors made by Bombardier. They're a big long stroke, two-stroke. If you could start them, you can run them, man. I'm telling you, they're a bull to pull over, and I got the knack for it though, man. Like, I'm not a strong guy, but I just know how to start things. So, and a lot of problem with these fire pumps, these two-strokes, is back to the spark plug again. They have points condenser in those motors, and you know, if the thing ain't running quite right, you're pulling like crazy on, wearing yourself out. Or guys flood them super easy. They do have a drain plug in the bottom of the crankcase. You can drain that excess gas out, put a new plug in, and boom, she'll go again. But it's all about learning how to run them. And I put courses on before to logging companies and individuals to show them how to do it. And yeah, so most of the problem with them is normally spark and carburetors, because they sit around all year, or that last summer they didn't get used and the guys didn't drain gas out of them. Typical, man, on two-strokes. So yeah, my coworker Mike's going to help me out with that, Mr. Newman. And I'm going to teach him how to set the points on them and do the carbs, and then run them up to test the pressure of the pumps. I have a big water tank at the other shop that I use. I actually recirculate the water, so the water that comes out of the pump goes back into my tank, so I don't waste so much water. You know, I can blow water out of the nozzle of those pumps. Jeez, 100 feet easy. I used to do that down this ravine right behind here, behind my shop here. I always told the logging company managers, if that water can hit that second maple tree in my ravine, I know that pump's good. Kind of funny. I told that to a guy one day. He goes, really? I go, yeah, come back here. I'll show you. And I showed him. Then I put the gauge on it. And yep, sure enough, it was right up to pressure. Anyways, that's it for today. I'm going to get poured in here, finish my coffee, and then go, yeah, fix them pumps. So everyone, have a great day. Keep your saw on the wood. Enjoy the weather out there. Bye-bye.